How did the early 2000s X-Men movies differ from the comic books? Have you ever wondered how the early 2000s X-Men movies stacked up against the original comic books? Let's take a closer look at some of the key differences that shaped this iconic film series. The first film, released in 2000, directed by Bryan Singer, made several notable changes that reflected the challenges of adapting a long-running comic series into a blockbuster format. One of the biggest changes was in character portrayals and backstories. For instance, Mystique, who was originally a male character in the comics, was reimagined as a female character in the films, portrayed by Rebecca Romijn. The relationships between characters also shifted. In the comics, Magneto and Professor X began as allies, but the films presented them as adversaries, adding dramatic tension. Wolverine, played by Hugh Jackman, emerged as the central figure in the movies, often overshadowing other characters who had more prominent roles in the comics, like Kitty Pryde. The plot and settings also saw significant changes. While the comics mainly took place in the United States, with Professor X's school located in Westchester County, New York, the films relocated much of the action to Europe. This geographical shift gave the story a different context. The films focused on mutants battling a powerful organization seeking to control or eliminate them, while the comics emphasized the broader theme of mutants striving for acceptance in a fearful human society. When it came to storylines, the movies adapted iconic comic arcs but often altered them for cinematic appeal. For example, in the Days of Future Past storyline, the comics featured Kitty Pryde traveling back in time to prevent a dystopian future. The film replaced her with Wolverine, capitalizing on his popularity and healing ability to justify the time travel. The films also condensed complex comic arcs to make the narrative more accessible to general audiences, sometimes at the expense of comic fans' expectations. The tone and style of the early 2000s movies balanced action with serious themes like prejudice and acceptance. However, they also needed to appeal to a mainstream audience unfamiliar with the comics. This led to a more straightforward portrayal of characters and conflicts, compared to the layered storytelling found in the comics. The films helped elevate superhero movies from niche to mainstream blockbusters, setting a new standard for comic book adaptations. The impact of the early 2000s X-Men films on pop culture was immense. They popularized characters like Wolverine, turning him into a cultural icon beyond the comic book readership. The success of these films paved the way for the modern superhero movie boom, showing that comic book stories could be both commercially successful and critically respected. From a 2000 nostalgia perspective, these films captured the era's growing enthusiasm for superhero cinema. They blended faithful homage with creative liberties, introducing a wider audience to the world of mutants and their struggles. While not always perfectly aligned with the comics, the movies hold a special place as pioneers that helped shape the superhero genre into the blockbuster staple it is today.